What do you got, Angelo? He's thinking. He's smiling. He's pondering something.
No, I mean, I was really fortunate to be able to ski with Troy the week before the tryout at National Academy, and I was uber impressed by Troy. Your how in tune you are with what you need to perform at your level, and it's certain stretches, certain supplements, certain recovery strategies, the TENS machine, and it's really impressive the way you know yourself, the way you like your skis to be tuned for this situation or that situation, like what you need to do in your head to get ready for the day, the next day. There's no, like you mentioned earlier, like you're watching these team members and they're doing something a little bit different than what you had seen. And just the things that you're saying right now are a little bit different than the things we typically hear. So it's no wonder why you got to where you are. It's just, it totally makes sense why you made the team, just as in tune as you are. That's what I was thinking, Dave.
Yeah. And that's kind of leads into my next question is like, I've been around for a lot of your career. We've run together a ton. We've gone to Mount Hood in the summertime. We've done the Tombra Bow, training in the summer a few times. Imagine if we could do that, like even just once a week with Tom. We might hurt for a few weeks, but maybe we'd feel better that one time we go work out and get in the pool, then we're dead for like 2 weeks. We can't move afterwards. But all these things over the years, how have you evolved it? Because we've for people to know, when it started, this was kind of my mode, but how have you got to this point? Like, what are some of the things you evolved or had to not even change, but maybe add?
Kind of go, I know what works for me. And for me, a lot of times, I've done a bunch of, weight work and, just trying to get stronger. And I've always found what works best for me is that a lot of the touch activities, trying to be able to play around with, working on balance and motion, trying to be in, challenging those activities. Really, a bongo board was one of the more fun things to do, is just being able to play on stuff like that makes me move differently and makes me move in ways, there's an outcome. I want to be able to get into a low tuck on a bongo board. Okay, try that, and what do you need to move differently? How do you need to be able to adjust your body, foot to foot, 4.5, whatnot? You pick up pretty quick, but you hit the deck a few times. You're going to have to change. You're going to have to change some stuff. So you can't go in with any type of, this is what I'm going to do. It's like, well, you got an idea. You gain data from that idea. You adapt that from that, and you change what you need to do. So I do a lot of that. Just trying to challenge myself with those things. But I guess when I think about all of my career, I've always felt I've done really well when I have a high cardio aspect. And if I can be fit there through a lot of the cardio stuff, I'm very, very confident in the strength side of things. That you guys know me. I'm not a real big power built guy. I ski fairly strong for my size, but I'm not trying to over horsepower a lot of stuff.
Troy has described himself to me as having a battleship mouth and a canoe ass.
Yeah, we've seen that in Brian Nuss's what do we call those? It's not a blog, I guess, but he puts it's all on Facebook though. I mean, that is great around Pro Jam when you ski. Oh my God, that just
you got to be careful what you say around people. They start writing this down. It's
what was it? The Walshisms.
Walshisms, yeah. Yeah.
And no one writes them down better than Brian, man.
No, yeah, he is a storyteller. That's one for sure.
Like these guys from Maine, when they're born in Maine, they get a manual on clever shit to say.
Oh man. Well, and the teaching part. I mean, that's a lot about how you. And I know you put a ton into the physical part. We've done a lot physically in terms of trying to do things during the summer. I mean, how many years we went to Hood with Dave Gregory? I don't know, must have been close to 6 years.
Yeah, I missed a couple of them, but yeah, I remember. I've gone to 3 or 4 of those.
Yeah, those are. I mean, a ton of us have done it. I mean, Kathy's been out there with us, and Kim Sievers got us going with that first, and got Rick and I go out there, and Kathy's gone, Harold's gone, Frank's gone. We went back. Mahan was there my first year, and then and Chabe and Timmy Thompson and a ton of people. But when it comes to the teaching part, like for me, like I know that I don't know if people think they do this, but we chat a lot about skiing, and not just you and me. I mean, you, me, and Angelo. I mean, with the staff talks about skiing, and not just the skiing itself. We talk about how we're presenting things, or how we do a task on the hill, how we change the terrain, or where we do it. And you do that a lot. You reach out to certain people on ed staff, or just people in the ski world to talk with. How much has that influenced your gaining tech knowledge, or figuring out how you want to present things, or teaching stuff? I mean,
yeah, it's crazy, because I think a lot of that, when I get very frustrated with myself, so it's like I want to develop a behavior, a movement pattern in somebody, and it's like I just don't have the tools, or I just there's something missing. And I think it's unfortunate that if you look around the room and you got some great educators around you, maybe we just need to just say, I don't get how to do this. Raise your hand. It's like, man, I'm so lost in it. And you could listen to people talk about it, and just changing, knowing that you don't have the answers, and knowing that there's a group out there that might have the answers is a really good place to start, because I think there's a lot of times that sometimes as a staff member, you're almost expected to know all these things. And, once again, I'll say this, that, Skelly told me this: hardest thing in the world is to say that you don't know. Yeah. And I learned that pretty easily. I thought that was one of the best things in the world, to say, geez, I really don't know that, but let's think about this. Let's go and let's explore this together. And that's what I do. Is I'll come up with something, or I'll have a question that I don't understand, or I want to have more than one way to explain it, and I'll just start throwing it out there to someone. And this is the weirdest thing, because it's like I'll just ski up to whoever in uniform and be like, what do you think of this? And just throw it out there. And it's like, don't need to answer now. Let's have a drink, or let's just catch up when we're taking our boots off and ski off, and try to just throw ideas out there. And at least you're trying to gain a broader view of education. And that's, and we've got so many great people in the organization, Dr. Pete Allison, let's face it, Harold Smith, he's a smart dude,
smart dude.
So all of a sudden, when we got guys on that work with us that have initials at the tail end of their names, that's really, there's your cue right there. You want to talk to those guys, not to knock down anyone else, but man, those guys have gone proper education. They've figured some stuff out. They've put some time in. Being able to have those guys and be able to say, what's this? And all of a sudden, when you throw that out there and they come back with a stack of information, yeah, now we're in a good spot. But I think that's probably the thing that I've tried to encourage in myself and involve in my own world, of just saying, I ask questions, and I'm not afraid of hearing other viewpoints that might not be my own, and just being able to absorb that and gobble it up and kind of twist it around so it makes sense to me, and then be able to try and put it out there. But, we've all said this before. It's like every time we get to go on with the group, it's an experiment. I shouldn't know the answers when I throw something out there. It might not do, I'm going to throw this out there, and it's like, who knows? This could go great, or this could be a nightmare in 2 hours, and we need to take a coffee break and figure out where are we, and that's a good thing.
Because like I get into conversation, if Tom Chase is there, I have to always remember, okay, I got a NASA scientist here, man. He's going to know some physics and some science stuff that I better be ready for.
Absolutely.
Designing space use.
Don't go in thinking that you know the answers. Go in and feel like I'm surrendering myself here. I'm opening myself up, and you'll probably be able to pick up some good stuff for sure.
Yeah, well, the guy on the screen with us here, Troy, I mean, that's the inquisitive one there. He's thinking right now. I mean, educationally wise, he's got a lot more initials behind his name than we have. And I go there a lot, man. I mean, Angelo, you're one of the guys we go to for that.
Holding you back.
Holding me back. Come on, man.
No, but I agree. We've said this before on here. To be really good at anything, you have to drop your ego first. Like with the bongo board, right? I did the same thing with my unicycle. And I think I told you, like, I knew I was going to hop on that thing and just slay it. I knew that. I got it out of the box and it gave me a beating. And it was like, oh, okay. I didn't know that, But it's the same thing with teaching. And a lot of times we do have a tendency, there's a pressure put on an individual as that person goes higher in any organization. When it comes to teaching, whether it's school or on the hill or whatever, there's an expectation from your learners that you're going to have the answers. And so we probably put this false expectation on ourselves, and we get real defensive around what we think we know, and we can piss a circle around it, So it is really hard, but it's also really important to, like you say, Troy, surrender yourself and just realize that, like, it's in a group like that, it's a melting pot. And while Tom may have the physics behind it, Troy has intrapersonal skills that are like an intrapersonal intelligence, probably the least discussed of the intelligences. If you're thinking about like Gardner, like we talk about interpersonal. We don't talk about intrapersonal as much. I don't think Troy's intrapersonal intelligence is off the charts. Like, he knows himself. And so when you get a group of people together, yeah, Tom knows the physics. Pete has the initials after his name in this particular field. But who's bringing the intrapersonal stuff? Who's bringing the musical stuff? It's going to throw out that idea like, well, why don't we just ski down the hill and listen to the noises our gear's making? Like, oh, I never thought of that. Like, when you get that kind of collaboration, that's when everybody gets better, and you just have to be willing to do that.
I mean, that's the beauty. I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to get the podcast going, and Angelo and I started talking, and it kind of evolved that, I mean, I get to learn a ton from you, Angelo, but, Troy's talked about today, and just what you're talking about, the collaboration. Troy mentioned Margie King and Tom Barbeau. I mean, we've done stuff. I mean, that was a long time. That was before. I was like, what? Well, Margie, I've been doing stuff since like, I don't know, 30 years. But with Tom, we just were doing stuff with him like, what, 2000, 2001?
Yeah.
Or even, I think somewhere in there. And, Dave Gregory, definitely we did stuff around before the 212 tryout, after the 208 one we were doing with Tom. But definitely these folks that know more. And I just got a text from Margie this morning. Another one was Cheryl Coker, who's a professor at Plymouth State, was motor learning specialist. That collaboration, that's where it really happens. I mean, I steal more. I say a great teacher is someone who's a great thief because you steal from everybody. And I think that's what, Angelo and Angelo, I know you have some thoughts on this. We've had conversations of how some of the Facebook talk goes with people going back and forth, and it's writing, so it's hard. It's not really conversation. When you're writing, it's different, but it gets very confrontational and this is right, this is wrong. it's not really that, like Troy Sigan said, it's not that, throwing ideas out and just talking about it of maybe what it is or different options or problem solving. It's like there's always this right and wrong immediately when you're looking at some of these supposed conversations on Facebook. And a lot of people don't grow from that. It just becomes a battle. They're not exploring what the possibilities could be. And I know you and I, Angela, I know you probably have some thoughts on that we've talked about quite a bit.
No new thoughts. I don't enjoy looking at them. I want to enjoy looking at them, and I try every once in a while I get these, for some reason, when somebody posts in particular groups, I get these notifications. I generally go look at the post, and a lot of times it is a really interesting thought. And so I'll start to go down through the thread a little bit, but I don't make it very far because it's just more aggressive than I'm in the mood to sift through. You know what I mean? So, but I'll think about the question on my own. I really don't engage very much with the posts. I think it's awesome that it's out there as a resource, but I do agree the tendency is for it to get very rigid very quickly. And then that's not really good for development. I don't think.
Yeah, because I mean, like we have conversations. I mean, Troy and I will definitely bang things back and forth at times, but it's more like, what do you do with this? Like, have you explored this? And then we'll sometimes either one of us have the answer and we're throwing shit out. Maybe we should try this today or maybe try that. I mean, it's more of a exploration than this is the way it is.
Let's look at this, right? Is every, how many turns can you make? What's a snow surface like on, from the beginning, middle, the end of the turn? You got so many variables to be able to kind of shoehorn ourselves into one place or one thought. It would, destroy us, because I know I ski with a different set of movements or blends of movements when it's ripping hard out, after a rainstorm, to when I have 6 inches of snow with 3/4 of an inch of windblown or freezing crust on top of that. I got to do something different. I got to be able to play around with different things. And when people get strong and they kind of rigid on their thoughts, they struggle with those things. There's too many variables to be able to be rigid, Bruce Lee, be the water,
Because this is a conversation, this is what I know I'm going to be talking to you about on the phone the next couple of weeks. Is like you were saying, you were looking at doing kind of hoppy type stuff this year. So right in my brain, I start going, okay, is he looking at trying to get some quick twitch muscles going? Or is he looking at for maybe to try to get some things for lengthening, shortening? I mean, I got 4 more thoughts in my head that could go to a bunch of these things. And that'll be the conversations. Are you looking more this way or that way? Or is it all of them? Or was it some feedback from the tryout? I mean, so I'm thinking of multiple reasons maybe you could do that, where some people go, why would you want to hop? Because we don't move up anymore.
I think it just, the quickness piece of it. I think that's a very important piece of it. I know over the past few years, I think there's been a really big push because we've gone to this idea in our skiing that we're so connected through turn transition and so connected at the top part of the turn that all of a sudden, when we get really good at that, you can look pretty dull.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. So the pendulum swung to that real accurate, real connected. Well, just like everything else in the world, it's got to swing back. So maybe we need to start getting a little bit faster. And not to say that it's not important, or not that it's to say that we need to ditch that thought, but we probably need to be able to show all aspects of it, right? I want to be able to be snappy and do that really, really tight short swing turn that, we did at Dev Team this year. And it's like, okay, that's important. That's really important to be able to show a mix of movements instead of this is our short turn.
Yeah.
Today, to give, best example, Murmur is like, this is, Murmur would always say, we have to be able to demonstrate throughout someone's development of skill. If they don't show up with that same level of skill and they have the level of being able to make this turn this way, I'm sorry. This is my demonstration of that. And this is what you're going to get. This is my short turn. I can't do anything other than that. So really being able to take a good opportunity to show variety of movement patterns through the same type of turn shape or turn size, it's going to help us out a lot.
So here's a big question. I'm going to ask it to both of you. Well, I'll have Troy answer first, but I'm going to make Angelo answer because I want to know this. I don't know. Just this was one of the questions for Troy, but I want to know what Angelo, see if he comes up, what he's going to come up with. Because I know it'll be interesting. Who or what has been the biggest influence for you and you can do it as, at first I was just thinking as, just over your ski teaching career, but maybe who or what has been the biggest influence, if you can segment it, like who's been your biggest influence on your skiing? Who's been your biggest influence as a coach, teacher, instructor? Is it different or the same?
It's definitely different. For me, it's definitely different. Skiing wise, I'm drawn towards accuracy. I'm always going to be that guy. So when I start thinking about I think there's too many to answer, right? I mean, there's too many folks that I can look at and say, I really would love to have that aspect of their skiing. And, the athleticism, all of a sudden you look at some folks, seeing how athletic they are in their skiing. I really like to have that sort of stuff. So I don't even dare say who is the one influence. I would just take little snippets from almost everyone that I've ever skied with. There's something that I want to take away from their skiing or their presenting, to be better. If I would just say one person on their teaching side of things that I've always just loved about how precise and the use of the language, it's always been Pete Howard. I love how I love the command that he has when he stands up in front of the entire BOE, could be in a national setting, and all of a sudden the room goes quiet. It's like, whoa, hold on to your hats, kids, because this could be awesome. Something really big could happen here. And I'm fortunate to have spent so much windshield time with him over the years, but how precise, and his words just would be, so true. Joe Wood was the same way. I remember right as a new examiner doing a scorecard, prep inside, and I'm writing. I filled up the whole thing, man. That whole card was small letters, as much as I could write in there. Handed it to Joe Wood, and he'd look at it and be kind of like, yeah, that's all right. I'd look at his, and it would be like 7 words. God dang it. It's like, yeah, why say 40 words when you can say 4 words and get the point across? And like, man, that's gold. That's gold. So.
How about you, Angelo?
I mean, similar. I hesitate to mention any one name because then I'd have to say everybody that I've ever skied with. Obviously when we walk in the room at training, everybody in there is capable of teaching you something, but it's the same when I walk in my locker room at home. I've learned so much from hearing weekend instructors at home who haven't been around that long, just how they perceive things and process things and then explain it to the people they're teaching. It's like, wow, that's really, really remarkable. I'm really, it's like a dead horse, but I'm really influenced by coming up in the skateboard scene because there were 2 schools of thought, and there was like Tony Hawk was super techie, robotic, and Christian Hosoi was super flow, surf style. And there was like a division among kids when we were coming up. Some kids loved Tony, some kids loved Christian. Sure, everybody really loved them both, but So I find myself in ski discussions, like the influence that's had on me as a ski coach is, the ski world, in my opinion, is very biased toward the race world. And I understand why. Obviously, that's where the best athletes are, and that's where the engineering is. So I totally get how that drives our sport, but I don't hear much discussion about style or flow or intentionality and that kind of thing. And I think that's really important. So, but I agree with Troy. When I watch Troy ski, I'm like, holy shit, like I can't make my body do that stuff. Like it's so precise. And Jim Pottinger's another one. I think Troy and Jim ski very similarly, and it's very different from what I do. But when I watch like Billy Bierman, I think Billy has so much style. It's just so flowy. It looks like he's surfing, and I love all that stuff. And I wish I could do all of it. So like my curse is I look around at everybody and go, damn, I wish I could be that good. It kind of beats you up after a while, but you just kind of pick the bits and pieces, I think, at the time that speak to you the most and work in that direction. Like when we skied with Jeb at Academy, we talked about foot speed a lot. So I'm finding myself on my runs right now, or when I'm pedaling my bike, being really aware of that moment when I change from one foot to the other, because I want to work some of that into ski, But I mean, if I'm going to mention one person, obviously it's Dolan.
Yeah, Dolan. I mean, Dolan's my biggest influencer now, man. I mean,
right.
I got to go skiing with Dolan.
Bottle up what Dolan has and sprinkle that on everybody. You know what I mean?
Everybody at InStack training is going to want to go with Dolan. I mean, Sue and Don are going to have a hard time at training because everybody's going to want to be in the same group with Dolan.
Just one group this year. It's just one group.
Just one group.
Dolan's group. I mean, that's kind of a generic answer, but that, I don't know. And the more I'm fortunate now in one sense, because I left my real job and I'm immersed in this more. And we have those moments. Ski teachers have those moments. I'm sure it happens in every field. Like, the new people who we hire every year, about 3 weeks in, inevitably say, oh my God, I had no idea there was so much to know about this. But we always say that. Like, I say that every time I go to training. I say it every time I go to National Academy. It's like, oh my God, there's so much I don't know. So it's more like, there's a reason you got 2 ears and 1 mouth. That's kind of what I've been thinking about lately. It's just like, be open-minded and the people that you really vibe with and go, oh my God, I get everything this person is saying. I totally get this. That's great. Use that as reinforcement. And then those folks that you don't vibe with as much, like it doesn't click, like that's probably a red flag that you need to explore that a little bit more so you can figure it out. And then you have a more rounded, deep, you have a deeper pull.
You think about all these people that we're talking about and all these people that we have interactions with. Skiing is hugely complicated. It's just, there's so much that we do without understanding it. But to be able to do it better and to be able to coach it, we need to understand a lot more. We need to understand, who here is a biomechanics master? And not me. I know what I do. I kind of figure it out. Physics, learning theories, teaching theory. All these things are just hugely large subjects, and we're out there trying to do it naturally. It's hard.
I think that's why you and I steal so much, Troy, because, we go to Angelo, we can go to Mr. Matt Boyd, we can go for the educational stuff that those guys have initials. Then we can go to Margie and Sue for biomechanics, kinesiology, and it just goes on and on. Harold, man, if I need a science, like physics type question, man, I'll definitely ask Harold.
Oh, and I think that's such a good, it's for us. There's such a good network out there. To be able to do that, because we can come up with an idea and it's like, I think we all do this, and we start kind of milling it around. And it's like, well, before I go and unleash this thing, I want to go and get someone else's opinion on it. And how many times we sat down, you brought up Margie, how many times we sat down and was like, is the body supposed to do this, or is it, is this wrong? I mean, and she'll give us the straight dope, and it's like, okay, fantastic. I'm not going to cause detriment in somebody. So you're like, all right, this is, you verify, you do your homework.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we we still got a couple things, because it's always at the end. Angelo has a couple questions that are kind of neat. I know you've heard him when he's asked other people when you listen to the podcast, Troy. But Angelo and I are hoping that we have Troy as a reoccurring person on the podcast. We know we will. We'll make you do it, because we won't let you have any bourbon if you don't come on. And then the other things, as we move into fall, we definitely want your expertise, because we want to have some chats on some of our assessment activities and stuff there as we move into the fall, and the new standards are taking place in June. So, we got Mr. Erickson, our cert chair, but we want to have you on retainer, that we don't pay you nothing, but you're on retainer.
On retainer. Yeah. I need to be on this thing, because there's a few of these podcasts I got bashed up pretty bad. I need to be able to I need to be able to defend myself at least sometimes.
Oh God. So yeah, we definitely want that. Thanks for re-listening. And also, before we finish, make sure, folks, that you like us on YouTube or subscribe to the channel. That always helps us as we move forward. We're hoping to move on some sponsors to help us keep doing this stuff. But Angelo, what are a couple of the Angelo questions we got to hit them with?
I was thinking about that. Like us on YouTube, right? I think YouTube ought to put a tolerate button on there too, for people who don't really like us, but they tolerate it.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know that I have anything particularly clever, but I want to ask Troy this, because you're coming down still off of this, I'm assuming if you had to point to one time in your life when you were at your greatest performance mode, operating in your greatest performance mode, you just did it. So now you're relaxing off of that. Like you say, it's coming back. Training's coming in October, but I just think timing wise, it's the beginning of June. We have membership who listens, hopefully who will listen throughout the summer, and a lot of them want to achieve something next season, new level certification. I think it's probably at this point pretty safe to say things are going to be at least fairly normal next year, and folks are going to be out. They're going to be looking to get level 2, level 3. So Troy, what's your best piece of advice for somebody, looking at the timing of the situation? It's June, getting ready for something that's coming up in December, February, March, April, whatever. What advice would you give our members?
I would, watching enough exams and watching enough people throughout the years, I think flexibility is probably the number one thing that I see throughout the vast majority of our membership going into certification. Whether or not it's being able to, the rotation effect or the flexion extension effect of body parts. I don't. And when I say that, thinking about this as I'm going along, you can become too flexible. We all skied with this person that maybe does yoga to the extreme, and they don't have that resistance effect, being able to really harness what the ski's doing and make the, ski push that person someplace. But they also have the other side of that coin, where a person just doesn't move well. They move as one unit. They don't ever flex and extend, or when they do flex and extend, they only flex and extend 3-4 inches. They don't have that range. So all of a sudden at level 3, when we bring them into, we're at Sugarbush and we go down Steins and the bumps are up to our chest, you probably need to be able to use some of that leg length that you have in a way that's going to be appropriate. And I don't think people pay attention to the flexibility side of it as much as they do strengthening and all the other stuff. I think, start a stretching activities right now is going to pay off in the end, for sure.
So I know the answer to this question, but what do you do even as you go into the winter when we're on the road for your flexibility?
Oh man, the foam rollers and the hooks and the tens units and got a Thera Gun. That thing was a torture device. Everyone had, when we were out in Breck this year, that was more entertaining than anything at the end of the day, watching everybody work on body parts and just about come into tears with it. So that's a new and interesting weapon for sure. But yeah, trying to just pay attention to all those things that if you're tight, and it's going to show. It's going to show in your skiing, and so many people, how many times have we heard this? Everybody's got too tight of hip flexors, hamstrings. Yep. You can give that feedback to anybody, and it's probably going to run true. Especially in our circles, they're going to be like, "Oh yeah, well, you ride a bike, your hip flexors and your hamstrings are too tight." So trying to really pay attention to those pieces and the big connections, like in the hip mobility, that type of stuff is so important for our skiing and our performance. It's do more of that.
Cool.
Well, can I be bold and throw something on top of that?
Sure.
Let me throw in mental flexibility.
Yeah.
This belief that there's a right way, one right way. What's PSIA's way? What's PSIA say this year? That's not real. That's perceived. And I think, Troy, you mentioned earlier, all the variables. You got the snow conditions, the weather, the length of the hill, and the base grind, right? Affecting all this stuff. You have to be flexible in how you approach teaching, but the danger is also there too, that you can be too flexible. So I think it's important to have beliefs, but you have to experiment and explore and consider in order to figure out what those beliefs about movement are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just want to throw that out there too, because I talk to a lot of people who are of this mindset, and I was of this mindset. It's not like I wasn't immune to this, that there's a right way. I'm just here to tell you now that that's probably not the case. So explore movements in a very general sense, how they apply to different activities, including skiing and snowboarding.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm glad we got him on retainer. It's not costing us more than maybe a Milky Way and a bourbon.
Snacks.
Gotta love snack. And thanks for joining us, Troy. And thanks everybody out there for listening.